The elevator to the 40th floor moved too fast. Ethan Morris gripped his borrowed toolkit and watched the numbers climb. 32, 33, 34. He had never been this high in the building. Never been called to fix Veronica Blake's personal laptop. Never been this desperate for $500. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Ethan shifted the toolkit to his left hand and pulled it out. A text from Mrs. Chin, his neighbor across the hall. Caleb is fine. Watching cartoons. Take your time. Ethan typed back quickly. Thank you. I owe you one. Mrs. Chin had been watching Caleb since 9 o'clock that night when the call came through from Blake Industries. Emergency repair request. Executive level. $500 for a quick fix. Ethan had been halfway through his shift at the warehouse, loading boxes onto pallets until his back ached when his phone rang with the job offer. He had clocked out early, driven home to grab his toolkit from the closet, kissed Caleb on the forehead while his son barely looked up from his dinner, and promised to be back soon. That was 2 hours ago. It was almost midnight now. The elevator chimed softly. 38, 39, 40. The doors opened onto a reception area that looked like it belonged in an art museum. Marble floors stretched out in pale cream, polished until they reflected the recessed lighting overhead. Abstract paintings hung on the walls, bold slashes of color that Ethan could not begin to understand. A reception desk sat in the center of the space, dark wood that gleamed like it had been hand-carved by someone who charged by the minute. Everything smelled faintly of expensive perfume and furniture polish. A woman in her 50s sat behind the desk. She looked up as Ethan stepped out of the elevator. Her expression was pleasant but efficient, the kind of smile that had been practiced 10,000 times until it became automatic. Ethan Morris. IT department, Ethan said, holding up his employee badge even though she had clearly been expecting him. Miss Blake is waiting. The woman gestured toward a hallway that stretched to the left, impossibly long and lined with floor-to-ceiling windows. Third door on the left. She has meetings starting early tomorrow morning, so she will need the system running before then. Ethan nodded and started walking. His shoes made soft sounds against the marble. Through the windows on his right, he could see the entire city spread out below. It was nearly midnight and the lights stretched in every direction, a carpet of gold and white that made the streets below look clean and orderly. From up here, the traffic and the noise and the chaos all disappeared into something that almost looked peaceful. Ethan had worked at Carter Global for 3 years, fixing computers on the 3rd floor where the regular employees sat in cubicles, and nobody noticed when he crawled under desks to check their connections. He had heard stories about the 40th floor. Everyone had. It was where Veronica Blake kept her office, where she ran Blake Industries with the kind of ruthless efficiency that made her both feared and admired. Forbes had called her the most feared woman in tech 2 years running. Business journals wrote articles analyzing her strategies, her hostile takeovers, her ability to dismantle competitors without blinking. Ethan had seen her exactly twice in 3 years. Once in the lobby, moving through with an entourage of executives trailing behind her like she was royalty. Once in a company-wide email, announcing layoffs in the marketing department with language so cold it might as well have been written by a computer. He found the 3rd door. It was already open. Veronica Blake stood behind her desk with her back to him, phone pressed to her ear. She was tall, taller than he had expected from the grainy photos in the business section of the newspaper. Her dark hair was pulled back in a way that looked effortless, but probably required a professional stylist and an hour of work. She wore a charcoal blazer over a white blouse, tailored so precisely it looked like it had been sewn directly onto her body. Everything about her posture radiated control. I do not care what the projections say, she was saying into the phone. Her voice was measured, calm, but Ethan could hear the edge underneath it, sharp as a knife. If the Singapore office cannot deliver the numbers they promised by Friday, we restructure the entire division. I am not interested in excuses. I am interested in results. Ethan stood in the doorway, unsure whether to announce himself or wait. He settled for waiting. His toolkit suddenly felt heavier in his hand. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other and tried not to look like he was eavesdropping. Veronica finished her call and turned around. For a second, her eyes swept over him with the kind of assessment that made Ethan feel like a balance sheet being reviewed for errors. Then something in her expression shifted slightly, became fractionally less sharp. "You're from IT," she said. It was not a question. "Yes, ma'am." Ethan Brooks. "I got the call about a system malfunction. It froze during a video conference an hour ago. Will not restart properly. She gestured toward the massive desk where 3 monitors sat dark and lifeless. I have presentations to review before the investor meetings tomorrow afternoon. I will take a look, Ethan said, moving toward the desk. He set his toolkit down carefully on the corner, trying not to disturb the neat stacks of documents arranged across the surface. Contracts. Financial reports. A copy of Forbes with her face on the cover, expressionless and intimidating. Veronica stepped back, giving him space, but she did not leave. She stood near the windows with her arms crossed, watching him work. Ethan tried to ignore the feeling of being observed. He was used to working while people hovered nearby, asking how much longer it would take or explaining again what had gone wrong, as if he had not understood the first time. But Veronica did not say anything. She just watched with the same focused intensity she probably used in 1,000 boardrooms. Ethan powered down the system completely and checked the connections. Everything looked normal. He initiated a hard restart and waited. The monitors flickered to life one by one, glowing pale blue in the dim office. He watched the startup sequence, waiting for any error messages or warning signs. The main screen loaded her desktop. Clean. Organized. Folders labeled with project names and dates in neat rows. Nothing personal except a background image that started to load across the center monitor. Ethan's hand froze over the keyboard. It was not supposed to be visible. Normally, the system would have loaded straight to the login screen, bypassing the desktop entirely. But something in the crash had disrupted the sequence, and now the background image filled the entire center monitor in full high resolution. It was a photograph of Veronica. Not a professional headshot or a corporate photo. This was something else entirely. She was lying on what looked like a hotel bed, wearing black lingerie that left very little to the imagination. Her hair was down, loose around her shoulders. She was not looking at the camera. Her eyes were closed, her head tilted slightly to the side, one hand resting on her collarbone. The lighting was soft, intimate, the kind of photo that was never meant to be seen by anyone except the person it was sent to. Ethan reached for the keyboard immediately, trying to close the image, to get to the login screen as quickly as possible and pretend he had not seen anything. Stop. Veronica's voice cut through the quiet office like a blade. Ethan's hand stopped halfway to the keyboard. He looked up and found her standing much closer than before. Close enough that he could see the exact moment her expression changed from neutral observation to something harder to read. She was staring at the screen. At her own image reflected there. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes went hard for a second, then something else flickered across her face. Something that looked almost like pain. You saw it, she said. Not a question. An acknowledgement. Ethan wanted to lie. Every instinct told him to lie, to protect himself, to maintain the professional distance that existed between a billionaire CEO and an IT technician who fixed computers for $500 at midnight. But something in her tone, something in the way she was looking at the photograph, like she had forgotten it existed, made him tell the truth. Yes, he said quietly. I am sorry. The system loaded incorrectly. I was not trying to. I know you were not trying. Ava moved closer to the desk, her eyes still fixed on the image. That was taken 6 months ago. I forgot I had set it as the background on this device. Ethan did not know what to say to that, so he said nothing. He kept his hand hovering over the keyboard, waiting for permission to close the image and finish the job and leave. Veronica looked at him directly then, and he saw something in her expression that he had not expected. Not anger. Not embarrassment. Something closer to exhaustion mixed with something else he could not quite identify. What did you think? She asked. Her voice was quiet now, stripped of the commanding tone she had used on the phone. When you saw it, what did you think? Ethan hesitated. This felt like a trap. Like there was no right answer. I thought I should close it, he said carefully. It is private. Before that, Veronica took another step closer. Her eyes did not leave his face. What was your first thought? Your honest thought. Ethan swallowed. The office felt too warm suddenly. Too small. He could hear the hum of the monitors, the faint sound of traffic 40 floors below, the quiet rhythm of his own heartbeat. I thought, he said slowly, that it looked like a photo someone sent to prove something. To someone who asked for proof. Veronica's expression did not change, but something in her posture shifted. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Her arms uncrossed. She looked back at the screen, at her own image frozen there. You are perceptive, she said. Her voice was barely above a whisper now. He asked for it. My fiancé. Ex-fiancé. He said if I really loved him, I would show him. Prove I was serious. Prove I was enough. Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. He did not know what to say. Did not know if he was supposed to say anything at all. I sent him dozens of photos like that, Veronica continued. She was still staring at the screen, but Ethan had the sense she was not really seeing it anymore. I thought if I could just be beautiful enough, desirable enough, maybe he would stop looking at other women. Maybe he would stop comparing me to his assistants, his clients, the waitresses at restaurants. Maybe I would finally be enough. She turned to face Ethan fully. Her eyes were dry, but there was something raw in them that made him want to look away. He did not. So I am asking you, she said. Her voice cracked slightly on the last word. Am I pretty enough? In that photo. Do you think I am pretty enough? The question hung in the air between them. The most powerful woman Ethan had ever met was asking him, a nobody who fixed computers, if she was pretty enough. And from the look in her eyes, from the way her hands were clenched at her sides, from the slight tremble in her voice, everything depended on his answer. Ethan looked at the photograph on the screen, then back at Veronica. Her eyes were fixed on him, waiting. The question still hung between them like something fragile that might shatter if he moved too quickly. No, he said finally. Veronica flinched as if he had struck her. Her jaw tightened and she turned away, moving back toward the windows. Her hands came up to her face for a moment, then dropped to her sides. I am sorry, Ethan said. But you asked for the truth. I did. Her voice was flat now, empty of the vulnerability that had been their seconds before. You can finish the repair and leave. Ethan did not move toward the keyboard. He kept his eyes on her back, on the rigid line of her shoulders, on the way her hands had clenched into fists at her sides. You are not pretty in that photo, he said quietly. You are desperate. And whoever made you feel like you had to prove something, whoever made you believe you were not enough exactly as you are, that person does not deserve you. Veronica went very still. She did not turn around. You do not know what you are talking about, she said. But there was no conviction in her voice. Maybe not, Ethan said. But I know what desperation looks like. I have been desperate. I am desperate right now. I am here at midnight fixing your computer because I need $500 to keep my lights on and feed my kid. So I know what it looks like when someone is doing something they do not want to do because they think they have no other choice. Veronica turned slowly. Her face was composed again, the mask back in place, but her eyes were red around the edges. You have a child, she said. A son. Caleb. He is 6. His mom died 2 years ago. Cancer. It was fast. I am sorry. Ethan nodded. Thank you. He paused, then continued. After she died, I had people tell me all kinds of things. That I needed to be strong. That I needed to move on. That I needed to find someone new so Caleb would have a mother figure. Everyone had advice about what I needed to do to be enough for my son. Like I was broken and needed fixing. What did you do? Veronica asked. Her voice was softer now. I stopped listening to them. I figured out what being enough actually meant. It meant showing up. Being present. Doing the work even when it hurt. It did not mean being perfect or proving anything to anyone. It just meant being real. Veronica walked back to the desk slowly. She looked at the photograph again, really looked at it, and something in her expression crumbled. He left me for my sister, she said. My younger sister. 28 years old. She works as a yoga instructor. He said she was more fun. More spontaneous. More everything I was not. When? Ethan asked. 4 months ago. He moved out while I was in Tokyo for a conference. Took his things and left a note. 2 weeks later I saw them together at a restaurant. She was wearing a ring. My ring. He proposed to her with the same ring he gave me. Ethan felt anger rise in his chest, hot and sudden. That is cruel. It gets worse. Veronica sat down in her desk chair, suddenly looking exhausted. He has been threatening to release all the photos I sent him. Says if I make any trouble about the ring or the apartment or any of the things we shared, he will send everything to the press. To my board of directors. To everyone. That is illegal, Ethan said. That is revenge porn. You could have him arrested. I could. But it would still be public. My reputation would still be destroyed. The board would still question my judgment. Investors would still pull funding. I would lose everything I built, and he knows it. So I have been quiet. I have been pretending everything is fine while he parades around with my sister and holds my entire life hostage. She put her head in her hands. The gesture was so human, so defeated, that Ethan felt something shift in his chest. I am sorry, he said. Nobody deserves that. I sent him that photo 3 days before he left, Veronica said without looking up. He said I was not trying hard enough. That I was too focused on work. That I did not make him feel desired. So I sent it. I thought maybe if I could just be what he wanted, he would stay. She finally looked up at Ethan. Mascara had smudged slightly under her eyes. She looked younger somehow, more human. Do you want to know the worst part? She asked. What? I still wonder if he was right. If I had tried harder. Been prettier. Been enough. Maybe he would not have left. Ethan moved around the desk and crouched down so he was at eye level with her. He kept a respectful distance, but made sure she could see his face clearly. Listen to me, he said. That man is a coward and a criminal. Nothing he did or did not do caused him to leave. Nothing he looked like or did not look like made him cheat. That was his choice. His failure. Not yours. Veronica's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back furiously, but one escaped, tracking down her cheek. I have everything, she whispered. Money. Power. Success. People are afraid of me. They do what I say. But I still asked a stranger if I was pretty enough. What does that say about me? It says you are human, Ethan said gently. It says someone hurt you badly and you are still healing. That is not weakness. That is just being alive. Veronica wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. She laughed, but it came out broken and wet. I do not cry. I have not cried in front of anyone in 15 years. Maybe that is part of the problem. Maybe. They sat in silence for a moment. The city stretched out below them through the windows, oblivious to the small human drama playing out 40 floors above the street. Can I ask you something? Veronica said finally. Of course. Why are you being kind to me? You do not know me. I have a reputation for being difficult. For ruining careers. You should be finishing the repair and leaving as fast as possible. Ethan smiled slightly. Should I be? Most people would. I am not most people. And you are not your reputation right now. Right now you are just someone who got hurt and is trying to figure out how to keep going. I understand that. Veronica looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached into a drawer and pulled out a checkbook. She wrote quickly and tore out the check, handing it to him. Ethan looked at it. $1,000. The job was $500, he said. Consider it a tip. For honesty. I cannot take this. Yes, you can. Veronica stood up and walked to the windows, her back to him again. You have a son to feed and bills to pay. Take it. Please. Ethan folded the check carefully and put it in his pocket. Thank you. Thank you. For not lying to me. Ethan finished the repair work quickly, closing the photograph and setting up a new background image, a simple landscape of mountains. He packed his toolkit and headed toward the door, then stopped. If you need anything, he said. I mean it. You have my number from the work order. Veronica nodded without turning around. I will be fine. I always am. Ethan left her standing there, silhouetted against the city lights, and rode the elevator back down to the ground floor. He drove home through empty streets and paid Mrs. Chin, then checked on Caleb. His son was asleep in his small bedroom, curled around a stuffed dinosaur that had been his mother's last gift to him. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, watching Caleb breathe. He thought about Veronica Blake standing in her pristine office, surrounded by wealth and power and crushing loneliness. He thought about the photograph and the desperate question and the brokenness in her eyes. He fell asleep on the couch that night, still thinking about it. The next morning, Ethan woke to his phone buzzing on the coffee table. He grabbed it without looking, expecting a text from his boss at the warehouse. Instead, his screen was filled with news alerts. Veronica Blake intimate photos leaked online. Tech CEO victim of revenge porn scandal. Blake Industries stock plummets as CEO personal photos go viral. Ethan sat up fast, his heart pounding. He clicked on the first article. The photos were not shown, but the description was detailed enough. Intimate photographs of Veronica Blake had been released to multiple media outlets overnight. Her ex-fiancé had sold them to a tabloid for an undisclosed sum. The tabloid had published them online, and they had spread across social media within hours. The article quoted anonymous sources saying the board of Blake Industries was calling an emergency meeting. Investors were demanding answers. Competitors were already circling, sensing weakness. Ethan's phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. You were right about him. I should have listened to myself sooner. Then another message. Everyone is gone. My lawyers. My friends. My family. Everyone. Then a third. Am I still pretty enough to deserve kindness? Ethan stared at the messages for a long moment. He should stay out of it. He was nobody. She was a billionaire with resources he could not imagine. She would figure it out. But he kept seeing her face from last night. The vulnerability. The desperation. The way she had asked if she was enough. He grabbed his keys and was out the door before he could talk himself out of it. The drive to her building took 20 minutes. The street outside was chaos. News vans lined the curb. Reporters clustered around the entrance with cameras and microphones. A security guard was trying to keep them back, but they kept pushing forward, shouting questions. Ethan parked 2 blocks away and walked back. He pushed through the crowd, ignoring the questions thrown at him, and managed to get to the security desk in the lobby. "I need to go up to the 40th floor, he told the guard. "Nobody goes up without clearance." The guard did not even look at him. "I am IT. I was there last night. Check your logs." The guard checked his computer, frowning. "Fine. But make it quick." Ethan took the elevator up. The ride felt longer this time, weighted with tension. When the doors opened, the reception desk was empty. The hallway was silent. He walked to Veronica's office and knocked. No answer. He tried the door. It was unlocked. Veronica was sitting on the floor behind her desk, her back against the wall. She was wearing the same clothes from last night. Her hair was loose and tangled. Her makeup was smeared. She looked up when he entered and her eyes were hollow. "You came," she said. Her voice was hoarse. "Of course I came. Why?" Her eyes were red from crying. "Everyone else left. My lawyers stopped returning my calls. My assistant quit this morning. My own sister sent me a text saying I brought this on myself. Why would you come?" Ethan set his toolkit down and sat on the floor next to her, keeping a respectful distance between them. "Because you asked if you were pretty enough to deserve kindness," he said. "And the answer is yes. You are. Not because you are pretty. Because you are a person. And people deserve kindness, especially when they are hurting." Veronica laughed, but it came out bitter and broken. "I am not a person. I am a headline now. A scandal. A lesson about what happens to women who are stupid enough to trust the wrong man." "You're a victim," Ethan said firmly. "He did something illegal. He committed a crime. This is not your fault. The board does not see it that way." She pulled her knees up to her chest, looking smaller than he had ever seen her. "They voted this morning. I am out. Effective immediately. They are freezing my assets pending an investigation into whether I used company resources for personal matters. My accounts are locked. My credit cards are declined. I cannot even pay for a hotel room." "Do you have family?" "Friends. My family sided with my sister. My friends were business contacts. Turns out when you are no longer useful, people stop calling you friend." Ethan thought about his cramped apartment. About Caleb. About the couch that still smelled like juice boxes and the bathroom with tiles that were cracked and the kitchen where the refrigerator made strange noises at night. "My couch is lumpy," he said. "My apartment smells like kid and cheap coffee. Nobody knows your name there. Reporters will not camp outside. You can stay there. For a while. Until you figure things out." Veronica stared at him. "Why would you help me? You do not know me. I know you are a person who is hurting. That is enough. I have nothing to give you. No money. No connections. Nothing. I am not asking for anything." Veronica's eyes filled with tears again. She wiped at them angrily. "I do not understand people like you. People like me. Kind people. People who help without expecting something back. I spent my whole life in a world where everything is a transaction. Where kindness has a price tag. Where people smile at you while calculating what you can do for them. Not everyone is like that. Apparently not." She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. "Your offer. Your couch. You are serious." "I am serious." "Why?" "Because." Ethan paused, trying to find the right words. "When my wife died, I thought I would drown. The grief was so heavy I could barely breathe. I had a 6-month-old baby and no idea how to survive without her. And Mrs. Chin, my neighbor, she started showing up. Bringing food. Watching Caleb when I had to work. Never asking for anything. Just helping. When I tried to thank her, she said she was just doing what people do. We take care of each other." Veronica was silent for a moment. "I do not know how to be taken care of. You will learn." She stood up slowly, using the wall for support. She looked around her office, at the expensive furniture, and the Forbes magazine with her face on the cover and the city stretching out below. "I built all of this," she said quietly. "I thought it mattered. I thought it made me important. Protected. Untouchable. It did not. No, it did not. She turned to face him. If I stay with you at your apartment, what would that look like? It would look like you sleeping on my couch, eating spaghetti with me and my son, sharing a bathroom with chipped tiles, watching cartoons on Saturday morning, living like a normal person. I do not think I know how to do that. Then you will learn that too. Veronica picked up her purse from the desk. It was the only personal item in the entire office. She walked to the door, then stopped. My couch is lumpy, she said, testing the words. And my apartment smells like kid and cheap coffee. That is right. And reporters will not camp outside. They will not. Okay. She took a breath. Okay. They rode the elevator down together. The reporters surged forward when they reached the lobby, cameras flashing, questions overlapping into noise. Ethan stepped in front of Veronica and kept walking, guiding her through the crowd to his car. She did not look up, did not acknowledge any of them. They drove in silence. Veronica stared out the window as the expensive neighborhoods gave way to middle-class ones, then to the area where Ethan lived. Apartment buildings with faded paint. Bodega on every corner. Kids playing in small parks surrounded by chain-link fences. This is where you live, she said. It was not a question. This is where I live. It is very different from where I live. It is very different from where you lived, Ethan corrected gently. Right. Where I lived. He parked on the street and let her into his building. The elevator was old and slow, rattling as it climbed. Veronica stood in the corner, arms wrapped around herself, looking smaller with every floor they passed. Ethan unlocked his apartment door and pushed it open. Caleb was sitting on the floor in the living room, building something with blocks. He looked up when they entered and his eyes went wide. Dad, he said. You are home early. I needed to help someone, Ethan said. Caleb, this is Miss Blake. She is going to stay with us for a little while. Miss Blake, this is my son Caleb. Caleb stood up, clutching a dinosaur toy to his chest. He stared at Veronica with open curiosity. Are you the computer lady? He asked. Yes, Veronica said. Her voice was soft, uncertain. I am the computer lady. Why are you staying here? Because sometimes people need help. And we help people. Right, buddy? Right, Caleb said. Like when we helped Mrs. Chin carry her groceries. Exactly like that. Caleb walked closer to Veronica, tilting his head to study her. You look sad, he said. I am a little sad, Veronica admitted. My mom was sad before she died. But Dad says sadness does not last forever. He says it gets better. Your dad is very wise. Caleb grinned. He says that too. Despite everything, Veronica laughed. It was a small sound, fragile, but real. Are you hungry? Ethan asked. I can make lunch. We have spaghetti. Spaghetti is my favorite, Caleb announced. Spaghetti sounds good, Veronica said. They ate at the small kitchen table, Caleb talking nonstop about his blocks and his dinosaur and the cartoon he had watched that morning. Veronica listened, asking questions, slowly relaxing in the presence of a 6-year-old who had no idea who she was or what had happened to her. After lunch, Ethan showed her the living room couch. He brought her a pillow and a blanket from the closet. It is not much, he said. It is enough, Veronica said. She sat down on the couch and ran her hand over the worn fabric. It is more than enough. Caleb appeared in the doorway with a stuffed elephant. He walked over to Veronica and held it out. You can borrow Mr. Trunk, he said. He helps when I am sad. Veronica took the elephant, her eyes filling with tears. Thank you, Caleb. That is very kind. You are welcome. Caleb smiled, then ran back to his room. Ethan sat down in the chair across from the couch. Veronica clutched the elephant to her chest and stared at the wall. I have nothing now, she said quietly. No money unfrozen. No job. No reputation. Nothing. You have time, Ethan said. Time to figure out who you are without the empire. Time to rebuild. Time to breathe. I do not know who I am without it. Then you will find out. What if I do not like what I find? Then you will change. People are allowed to change. Veronica looked at him, really looked at him, and something shifted in her expression. Something that looked almost like hope. I thought being pretty enough meant being powerful enough, she said. Perfect enough. Rich enough. Untouchable enough. And now I do not know. Maybe being enough just means being human. Being real. Being willing to accept help when you need it. That sounds right to me. She smiled, small and tentative. Thank you. For this. For being kind when you did not have to be. You are welcome. That night, Veronica lay on the couch wrapped in the blanket Ethan had given her, clutching Caleb's stuffed elephant. She could hear Ethan reading to Caleb in the next room, his voice soft and steady. She could hear traffic outside, the couple arguing upstairs. The normal sounds of normal people living normal lives. For the first time in months, she felt safe. The next morning, Caleb woke her up by standing next to the couch and staring at her until she opened her eyes. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning. Are you still sad?" "A little. But less than yesterday." "Good. Do you like pancakes?" "I do. Dad is making pancakes. He makes them shaped like dinosaurs. They're really good." Veronica followed Caleb into the kitchen where Ethan was standing at the stove, flipping pancakes onto a plate. He looked over his shoulder and smiled. "Morning. Hope you slept okay." "I did. Better than I expected." They ate breakfast together, Caleb explaining in great detail how each dinosaur-shaped pancake was a different species, and what they ate, and how they died in the extinction event. Veronica listened, asking questions, feeling something inside her chest loosen slightly. After breakfast, Ethan had to leave for work. He hesitated at the door, looking at Veronica. "Will you be okay?" he asked. "I will be fine. I am good at being alone." "You are not alone. Caleb is here. And Mrs. Chin is across the hall if you need anything." "Okay." Ethan left. Caleb settled on the floor with his blocks. Veronica sat on the couch, unsure what to do with herself. She had no phone, no laptop, no work to bury herself in. Nothing but time and silence and the unfamiliar sensation of having nowhere to be. "Do you want to build something?" Caleb asked. "I do not know how. I can teach you. Building is easy." Veronica slid off the couch and sat on the floor next to him. Caleb handed her blocks and explained the rules of his game, which seemed to change every few minutes. She followed along, adding blocks where he told her to, slowly getting lost in the simple act of creating something with no purpose except to exist. At some point, she realized she was smiling. "You're prettier when you smile," Caleb said, not looking up from his tower. "Thank you, Caleb. You're welcome. You should smile more." "I will try." That afternoon, Caleb had to do homework. Veronica helped him with his math problems, discovering that fractions made more sense when explained through the lens of sharing cookies. When he got frustrated with reading, she read to him, her voice steady and patient in a way she had not known she could be. When Ethan came home that evening, he found them sitting together on the couch, Caleb asleep against Veronica's side, her arm around him. "He is exhausted," Veronica whispered. "We played a lot today. Thank you for watching him." "I did not mind. He is a good kid. He is the best kid." Ethan carried Caleb to his room. When he came back, Veronica was standing by the window, looking out at the street below. "I used to look out at the city from 40 floors up," she said. "I thought I was above it all. Separate. Special. But I was just lonely. And now I am on the ground floor. With everyone else. And it feels better." Ethan stood next to her. They watched the street together, the people walking home from work, the kids playing on the sidewalk, the normal ordinary life happening all around them. "I do not know what happens next," Veronica said. "I do not know how to rebuild from nothing. I have never had nothing before. Nobody knows what happens next. We just keep going. One day at a time." "Is that enough?" "It has to be." Veronica turned to face him. In the dim light of the apartment, she looked different. Softer. Younger. More real. "Thank you," she said, "for showing me what enough actually looks like. Not penthouses and power. Just this. Just showing up and being present and doing the work of living." "You're welcome." She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. For the first time in 20 years, Veronica Blake stopped asking if she was pretty enough, powerful enough, perfect enough. In Ethan Morris's cramped apartment, helping his son with homework and learning to build towers out of blocks, she finally understood. She was simply enough. And that was everything.